Hello and welcome back to the Sleepy Inventory channel. Right now, in this moment, you are breathing, your heart is beating. Somewhere behind your eyes, something is aware of all of this, aware of the room, the quiet, the weight of the blanket, the particular quality of the dark. You exist. Tonight, we are going to consider what that actually means. The story we are going to tell tonight is the longest story there is. It begins before the earth existed. It passes through billions of years of slow change, through oceans and forests and ice ages and the long quiet of deep time, and it arrives here, in this room, in this body, in this particular moment of a particular night, with you breathing slowly in the dark. You are the end of a very long journey. The journey itself is the subject of what follows. The universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old. This number resists genuine comprehension. Counting to 13.8 billion at one number per second, without stopping, would take more than 400 years. The universe has been expanding and cooling and evolving for a period of time that no human mind can fully hold. The atoms that make up your body were present in various forms for most of it. Every atom in your body was forged in a star. This is not a metaphor. It is a verifiable fact of nuclear physics. The hydrogen atoms in your body, the most common atom both in humans and in the universe, formed in the first few minutes after the Big Bang, nearly 14 billion years ago. During this period, known as Big Bang nucleosynthesis, the temperature of the universe cooled enough to allow protons and neutrons to combine into the nuclei of hydrogen and helium and small traces of lithium. These three elements were the only ones that existed in the early universe. Everything heavier, the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, calcium, iron, and every other element that makes you what you are, would have to wait for stars to form. Stars are, among other things, nuclear furnaces. In their cores, under conditions of extreme heat and pressure, lighter elements are fused together to create heavier ones. A star like our Sun fuses hydrogen into helium. More massive stars fuse helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen, oxygen into neon, and so on, up through the periodic table. The heaviest elements, including the iron in your blood and the gold and silver that exist anywhere on Earth, are created in the final moments of a massive star's life as it collapses under its own gravity and explodes in a supernova, scattering its contents across space. Some of the very heaviest elements are now believed to be produced in even more extreme events, including the collisions of neutron stars. The carbon in your body was made inside a star that died billions of years before the Earth formed. The oxygen in your lungs was forged in a stellar core that no longer exists. The calcium in your bones traveled through space as part of a nebula before being incorporated into the dust cloud that became our solar system. In the most literal sense possible, you are made of the remnants of dead stars. Every atom in your body has a history that stretches back billions of years and includes journeys through the hearts of suns. The iron that allows your blood to carry oxygen, the phosphorus in your DNA, the sodium and potassium that carry the electrical signals in your nerves, all of it was made in the violent deaths of stars that completed their lives long before our solar system began. Our solar system began to form approximately 4.6 billion years ago from a cloud of gas and dust that included the scattered material of previous stellar generations. Gravity pulled this material together, and at the center the sun ignited. The remaining material formed a disk around it, and within that disk, smaller bodies began to accumulate through collision and gravity. Over tens of millions of years, the planets formed. The Earth, the third planet from the Sun, reached roughly its current size about 4.5 billion years ago. The early Earth was very different from the planet you are lying on tonight. Its surface was molten, bombarded by asteroids and comets, and covered by an atmosphere of carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor. There was no oxygen. There was no land as we would recognize it. There was no life. The moon itself is believed to have formed during this period, when a Mars-sized object called Theia collided with the early Earth, ejecting material that eventually coalesced into the moon. For hundreds of millions of years, the planet cooled. Oceans formed from water delivered partly by comets, and the surface slowly stabilized into something that could, under the right conditions, support the first tentative chemistry of life. Those conditions arrived, somewhere in the ocean, perhaps near a hydrothermal vent, perhaps in a shallow tidal pool where chemicals could concentrate. The right molecules came together in the right way. A membrane formed around a collection of chemistry that could replicate itself. A cell, the first cell, the ancestor of every living thing that has ever existed on Earth. This happened approximately 3.8 billion years ago. For the first 2 billion years or so afterward, all life on Earth was single-celled. Bacteria and archaea, invisible to the naked eye, lived in water, in rock, in extreme environments that nothing else could tolerate. The entire biosphere of the planet, for more than half its history, consisted of microorganisms. No plants, no animals, no eyes, no brains, no sound, just the quiet chemistry of single-celled life, slowly changing, slowly diversifying, slowly altering the planet around it. One of the most consequential events in the history of life was caused by bacteria. Around 2.4 billion years ago, a group of bacteria called cyanobacteria developed the ability to photosynthesize, using sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into energy and oxygen. They began releasing oxygen into the atmosphere as a waste product. Over hundreds of millions of years, the oxygen they produced accumulated in the air. For many existing life forms, this was catastrophic because oxygen was toxic to them. The Great Oxygenation Event was the first mass extinction in Earth's history. For other forms of life, the oxygen was a gift. Organisms that could use oxygen for energy had access to a vastly more efficient metabolic pathway than anything that had existed before. They could be larger, more complex, more active. The oxygenation of the atmosphere set the stage for everything that followed. The oxygen you are breathing tonight is the continuing product of photosynthesis, now performed primarily by plants and by phytoplankton in the oceans. Every breath you take is a chemical interaction with organisms that share your planet, organisms whose evolutionary ancestors changed the air itself billions of years ago. Around 1.5 billion years ago, one cell was engulfed by another cell, and rather than being digested, it survived inside its host. The two cells formed a partnership, the inner cell providing energy to the outer one, the outer cell providing protection and resources to the inner one. This event, called endosymbiosis, is the origin of the mitochondria in your cells. Every cell in your body that contains mitochondria, which is almost all of them, carries within it the descendant of a bacterium that entered into a partnership with another cell over 1 billion years ago. Your mitochondria have their own DNA, separate from the DNA in your cell nucleus, because they were once independent organisms. The DNA in your mitochondria is inherited only from your mother, because the mitochondria in sperm cells do not survive fertilization. This means that the mitochondria in your cells form an unbroken maternal line, leading back through your mother, her mother, her mother's mother, and so on for thousands of generations. The first multicellular organisms appeared around 600 million years ago. From that point, the pace of evolutionary change accelerated. The Cambrian explosion, approximately 540 million years ago, saw the rapid diversification of animal body plans. Within a relatively short geological period, the ancestors of almost every major animal group alive today appeared in the fossil record. Eyes evolved, shells evolved, nervous systems became more complex. Predation began. The arms race between predators and prey that has driven so much of the subsequent history of life began in the Cambrian seas. Life moved on to land around 450 million years ago. Plants colonized the shore, followed by insects, and eventually by vertebrates. The first land vertebrates were amphibians, animals that still depended on water for reproduction, who emerged from the sea around 375 million years ago. Their descendants eventually gave rise to reptiles, which could reproduce away from water entirely, and from reptiles came the mammals and the birds. The age of the dinosaurs lasted from approximately 250 million years ago to 66 million years ago, when an asteroid, approximately 10 kilometers across, struck the Yucatan Peninsula in what is now Mexico. The impact released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons. The immediate consequences were catastrophic, and the longer-term consequences were perhaps even more significant. The impact threw enormous quantities of dust and aerosols into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and disrupting photosynthesis for years. The mass extinction that followed killed approximately 75% of all species on Earth, including all non-avian dinosaurs. Small, warm-blooded, furry creatures that had been living in the shadow of the dinosaurs for over 100 million years survived. These were the early mammals. In the aftermath of the extinction, the mammals diversified rapidly, filling the ecological roles that the dinosaurs had vacated. Over the following tens of millions of years, they evolved into an extraordinary variety of forms. Whales returned to the sea, bats took to the air, elephants developed trunks and tusks, horses developed hooves for running on open grasslands. In the forests of Africa, a group of primates developed larger brains, greater social complexity, and an increased ability to use their hands. The human lineage diverged from that of chimpanzees and bonobos, our closest living relatives, somewhere between 6 and 7 million years ago. Since then, multiple species of the genus Homo have existed, many of them simultaneously, walking and living and dying across the landscapes of Africa, Europe, and Asia. Homo erectus, who appeared around 2 million years ago, was the first human species to leave Africa and spread across the Old World. Homo neanderthalensis lived across Europe and Western Asia from around 400,000 years ago until about 40,000 years ago, and recent genetic analysis has confirmed that they interbred with our own species. Most people of European, Asian, and other non-African ancestry today carry between 1 and 2% Neanderthal DNA in their genomes, the legacy of those ancient encounters between two human species. Homo sapiens, anatomically modern humans, appeared in Africa around 300,000 years ago. For hundreds of thousands of years, they lived as hunter-gatherers, moving through landscapes that they knew intimately, developing language and art and social complexity at a pace that, for most of that period, was very slow. Cave paintings made by Homo sapiens in what is now Indonesia date to more than 45,000 years ago. Cave paintings in what is now Spain date to over 30,000 years ago. These are not crude scratches. They are sophisticated artistic works, made by people with minds essentially identical to yours, using pigments they had prepared and applying them with skill and deliberate aesthetic intention. The people who made those paintings had the same brain you have, the same capacity for thought and feeling and imagination. If one of them were born today, raised in a modern society, they would be indistinguishable from any other person. Agriculture began around 12,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East. The shift from hunter-gatherer life to settled farming changed everything. It allowed larger populations to be sustained in one place. It led to the development of cities, of writing, of trade, of specialization of labor, of organized religion, of armies, of law, of all the things we associate with civilization. The entire recorded history of human civilization, everything that has ever been written down, every war and every peace, every empire and every collapse, every scientific discovery and every work of art, fits within the last 12,000 years. That is less than 1/300th of the time our species has existed. For more than 99% of the existence of Homo sapiens, no one was farming, no one was writing, no one was building cities. The world your great-great-grandparents knew, with its books and its laws and its industries, is a very recent invention. Consider the chain of individual human beings that connects you to that first cell 3.8 billion years ago. Every person who has ever lived was born to a mother and a father, each of whom was born to a mother and a father, and so on back through every generation. To have 2 parents, you need 4 grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents. Go back 30 generations and you have over 1 billion ancestors in your direct lineage. Go back 1,000 generations, roughly 25,000 years, and the number of people who would need to have lived and survived and reproduced for you to exist becomes incomprehensibly large. Each of those ancestors survived. Each one was born, grew to reproductive age, found a mate, and produced children who survived. Each one survived childhood diseases, predators, famines, wars, accidents, and the 10,000 other ways that life can end before reproduction. Each one made choices, however unconsciously, that led to you. A slightly different choice at any point in that chain, a different mate, a different night, a different outcome of a single illness, and you would not exist. Someone else would, but not you. The probability that you specifically exist has been estimated by various scientists and mathematicians, and the numbers involved are staggering. One calculation, accounting for the probability of your specific parents meeting, the specific sperm and egg that combine to make you, and the survival of all your ancestors, puts the probability at approximately 1 in 10 to the power of 2.6 million. That is a number so small that it effectively means impossible, except that it happened. You are here, which means that every step of the chain worked. Every one of your ancestors survived. The probability begins even before conception. A single human ejaculation contains hundreds of millions of sperm cells, and only one of them fertilizes the egg. That one sperm carried a specific combination of your father's genetic material. Had a different sperm fertilized the egg, a different person would have been conceived. The same is true for the egg, which represents a specific outcome of the long developmental process that began when your mother herself was a fetus, when her ovaries first formed all the eggs she would ever produce. You are the result of an unbroken chain of survival that stretches back 3.8 billion years to the first cell. Not one of your ancestors died before reproducing, not one. You are, statistically, the most improbable thing in the known universe. The body that carries all of this history is itself an object of extraordinary complexity. You are made of approximately 37 trillion cells. This number is an estimate, because counting every cell in a human body is not something that has been done precisely, and the number varies depending on the size of the individual and the method of counting. 37 trillion is the widely accepted approximation. 37 trillion individual units, each one carrying a complete copy of your genetic instructions, each one performing specific functions, each one communicating with its neighbors, each one consuming energy and producing outputs, and maintaining itself against the constant tendency of complex systems to break down. Your cells are not all the same. The human body contains approximately 200 distinct cell types, each specialized for a particular function. Neurons conduct electrical signals. Red blood cells carry oxygen. Immune cells patrol for pathogens. Muscle cells contract and relax. Epithelial cells form the surfaces of your skin and your internal organs. Each of these cell types reads the same genetic code, the same sequence of DNA in the nucleus. But different parts of that code are activated in different cells, allowing the same basic blueprint to produce radically different structures and functions. Your body also contains a population of microorganisms that is, by some measures, as large as your own cell population. The human microbiome consists of bacteria, archaea, fungi, and viruses that live in and on your body. The largest concentration is in the gut, where they assist with digestion, produce certain vitamins, and contribute to the function of the immune system. The relationship between your body and your microbiome is so intimate that some biologists describe a human being as a superorganism, a partnership between human cells and microbial communities that have co-evolved over millions of years. Your DNA, if it were uncoiled and laid end to end, would stretch approximately 2 meters from one end to the other. This means that your body contains enough DNA in all your cells combined to stretch from the Earth to the Sun and back several times. This DNA contains approximately 3 billion base pairs, the chemical letters of your genetic code. The entire sequence of instructions for building and maintaining a human being is contained in 3 billion letters, organized into roughly 20,000 genes. No two human beings, except for identical twins, have exactly the same DNA. Every person who has ever lived, every person living now, every person who will ever live, has a unique genetic sequence. Your specific combination of genetic variants has never existed before and will never exist again. You are, in a precise biological sense, entirely unique. The particular arrangement of genetic information that makes you you has existed for exactly the length of your life and will cease to exist when that life ends. The development that produced you from a single fertilized cell is itself among the most complex processes in the known universe. Within hours of fertilization, the single cell that would become you began to divide. By the end of the first week, it had become a small cluster of cells. By the end of the third week, the earliest version of the heart began to form and started beating, before there was any brain to sense it or any body to need it. Within 9 months, the single cell had become a fully formed infant, capable of breathing, crying, and seeing. The instructions for all of this were contained in the DNA inherited from your parents, executed without any conscious guidance, following processes that biology is still working to fully understand. Your heart beats approximately 100,000 times per day. Over an average human lifetime of around 80 years, that is approximately 3 billion heartbeats. With each beat, it pumps blood through approximately 96,000 kilometers of blood vessels, enough to circle the Earth more than twice. Your blood, moving through this network, delivers oxygen and nutrients to every one of your 37 trillion cells and carries away their waste products. The heart itself never rests. It has been beating since you were approximately 4 weeks old as a developing embryo, and it will beat until the moment you die. Your lungs, which expand and contract approximately 23,000 times per day, contain hundreds of millions of tiny air sacs called alveoli. If the surfaces of all the alveoli in your lungs were spread out flat, they would cover an area roughly the size of a tennis court. This enormous surface area allows for the rapid exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the air and the bloodstream. Every breath you take draws air through this immense, hidden landscape inside your chest. Your kidneys filter approximately 180 liters of fluid every day, removing waste products and maintaining the precise chemical balance of your blood. Your liver performs more than 500 distinct functions, including processing nutrients, removing toxins, and producing essential proteins. Your immune system distinguishes between your own cells and foreign invaders. identifying threats and destroying them while preserving the rest of your body, a process so complex and precise that we have only begun to understand it. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, connected to each other by approximately 100 trillion synapses. The number of possible connections between neurons in a single human brain exceeds the number of atoms in the observable universe. Your brain is the most complex object that we know of anywhere in existence. It processes sensory information, generates and stores memories, regulates every involuntary function of your body, produces language and abstract thought and creativity and emotion, and generates the continuous experience of consciousness that allows you to be aware of your own existence. The brain uses approximately 20 watts of power, roughly the same as a dim light bulb, to accomplish all of this. By an enormous margin, it is the most energy-efficient computing system ever known. The most powerful supercomputers in the world, performing far simpler tasks, require millions of watts to operate. Your brain, packed inside the bones of your skull and surrounded by protective fluid, achieves what no machine has ever come close to achieving, on energy that would barely run a household appliance. As you lie here, your brain is doing something remarkable. The moment you close your eyes and begin to drift towards sleep, a cascade of neurological events begins that is among the most important and least understood processes in human biology. Sleep is not simply a period of inactivity. It is an active, highly organized state in which the brain performs maintenance and consolidation tasks that are essential to its function. During the first stage of sleep, the brain transitions from the alert, high-frequency electrical activity of wakefulness to the slower rhythms of light sleep. Body temperature drops slightly, heart rate slows, muscles relax. The brain begins to disengage from the external world. As sleep deepens, the brain enters slow-wave sleep, characterized by large, synchronized electrical waves that sweep across the cortex. This is the deepest and most restorative phase of sleep. During slow-wave sleep, the brain clears itself of metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours, including a protein called beta amyloid, the accumulation of which in the brain is associated with Alzheimer's disease. The glymphatic system, a network of channels around the brain's blood vessels, expands during sleep and flushes these waste products into the cerebrospinal fluid, which eventually carries them away from the brain entirely. This cleaning process, only fully described by neuroscientists in the past decade, helps explain why sleep is so essential to cognitive function and long-term brain health. Memory consolidation also occurs during sleep. The experiences and information processed during the waking day are replayed and integrated into long-term memory during sleep. Connections between neurons that encode important memories are strengthened. Connections that encode unimportant information are pruned away. The sleeping brain is not passive. It is actively editing and organizing the contents of your memory, deciding what to keep and what to discard, strengthening the neural architecture of your knowledge and experience. During REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, the brain becomes almost as active as it is during waking. This is the phase most associated with vivid dreaming. The eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids. The body is effectively paralyzed, a mechanism that prevents the dreaming brain from acting out the physical movements of the dream. The function of dreaming is still debated by neuroscientists, but leading theories suggest that it plays a role in emotional processing, in the integration of new information with existing knowledge, and possibly in the simulation of social scenarios and problem solving. Over the course of a typical night, a sleeper cycles through these stages multiple times, with each cycle lasting roughly 90 minutes. The proportion of slow-wave sleep is greatest in the early part of the night, while REM sleep becomes more prolonged toward morning. By the time a person wakes naturally, they have completed 4 to 6 full sleep cycles, each one contributing to the overall restoration that sleep provides. While your brain performs its nightly maintenance, the rest of your body takes the opportunity to repair itself. Growth hormone is released in large quantities during slow-wave sleep, promoting the repair of muscle tissue, the growth of new cells, and the maintenance of bone density. The immune system becomes more active during sleep, producing cytokines and antibodies that fight infection and inflammation. The digestive system rests, blood pressure drops. The body uses the relative quiet of sleep to address the accumulated wear of the waking day. The skin replaces millions of cells. The lining of the gut is renewed. Microscopic damage to the muscles and tendons is repaired. The eyes, freed from the constant work of focusing and tracking, rest in their orbit. Even the bones, which seem so solid and unchanging, are constantly being remodeled by specialized cells, a process that continues throughout life and is particularly active during sleep. A human being who is completely deprived of sleep will die. The exact mechanisms are not fully understood, but studies in rats have shown that total sleep deprivation leads to death within 2 to 3 weeks, with symptoms including metabolic dysfunction, immune failure, and neurological collapse. In humans, extended sleep deprivation leads to severe cognitive impairment, hallucinations, and ultimately, organ failure. Sleep is not optional. It is not a luxury or a waste of time. It is one of the most fundamental biological requirements of human existence, as essential as food and water. The question of consciousness is perhaps the deepest question in science. What is it that makes you aware? What is the thing that is lying here tonight, experiencing the dark and the quiet and the slow movement towards sleep? Your brain is a physical object, a mass of neurons and synapses and electrochemical signals. From this physical activity, there arises the subjective experience of being, the sense of being here, the sense of being you. Philosophers call this the hard problem of consciousness. It is hard not because we lack information about how the brain works, though there is much we do not know, but because even a complete understanding of the brain's physical processes would not, in itself, explain why there is something it feels like to be a brain. Why is there experience at all? Why are you not simply an information processing machine operating in the dark with no inner life, no awareness, no sense of being? Nobody knows the answer. At this point in human understanding, it remains the deepest and most persistent mystery in science. The fact that you are aware of your own existence, that you can think about thinking, that you can wonder about wondering, is something that no physical theory has yet fully explained. What we do know is that consciousness as we experience it is associated with certain patterns of neural activity in the brain. It is associated with the integration of information across different brain regions. It is associated with the ability to model the self and the world and to project into the future. It appears to be, in some form, unique to creatures with sufficiently complex brains. The question of whether animals are conscious and to what degree is one of the most actively researched questions in cognitive science. You are, as far as we know, one of a relatively small number of creatures in the universe who knows that it exists, who can think about its own existence, who can lie in the dark and wonder about the nature of the dark and about the nature of the wondering itself. The universe is vast beyond meaningful comprehension. The observable universe, the portion of it from which light has had time to reach us since the Big Bang, contains an estimated 2 trillion galaxies. Each of those galaxies contains hundreds of billions of stars. Many of those stars have planets. In all of that immensity, across all of those galaxies and all of those stars and all of those planets, we have so far found evidence of life in only one place, here, on this small, warm, wet, improbable planet, orbiting an ordinary star in one of 2 trillion galaxies. The Earth is, from any cosmic perspective, almost unimaginably small. If the sun were the size of a door, the Earth would be the size of a coin, orbiting at a distance of roughly 30 meters. Traveling at the speed of light, the fastest speed physically possible, it would take more than 100,000 years to cross our galaxy. It would take more than 2 million years to reach the nearest large galaxy, Andromeda. The observable universe extends in every direction for 46 billion light years. The light from the most distant objects we can see has been traveling toward us since long before the Earth existed. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, contains somewhere between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. Our Sun is one of them, located in a quiet outer arm called the Orion Arm, about 26,000 light years from the galactic center. The entire solar system, including the Earth, moves around the center of the galaxy at approximately 230 kilometers per second, completing one orbit roughly every 225 million years. Since the dinosaurs went extinct, our solar system has not yet completed a single orbit around the galaxy. On this one small planet, in one unremarkable corner of one ordinary galaxy, something happened that may be the most remarkable thing in the entire universe. Life emerged, it evolved, it became conscious. It began to ask questions about itself and about the universe it found itself in. You are part of that. The universe, in the form of your brain, has become capable of contemplating itself. The atoms forged in stars have arranged themselves into a structure that can wonder about stars. The matter that has existed since the first moments of the universe has, through billions of years of change and selection and improbable survival, produced something that can think about its own existence and find that existence meaningful. This night, this moment, this particular arrangement of matter and energy that is you, lying in the dark and breathing slowly, is something the universe has spent nearly 14 billion years arriving at. It will not last forever. Nothing does. Right now, it is here. You are here. By any measure, that is extraordinary. The facts are growing quieter now. The atoms are still there, in your hands and your lungs and your blood, carrying their billions of years of history. The DNA in your cells still holds its 3 billion letters. Your heart is still beating, as it has been beating since before you were born. Your brain is beginning its nightly work, cleaning and sorting and weaving the day's experiences into the fabric of memory. Your ancestors, every one of them, did what was needed for you to be here. Here you are. The universe is very large. You are very small. That makes this moment more significant, not less. You do not need to do anything with this. You do not need to think about it further. You can simply let it rest the way the facts have rested in you tonight. Let the weight of the blanket be enough. Let the quiet of the room be enough. Let the slow, reliable rhythm of your own breathing be enough. You exist after everything. After 14 billion years and 3.8 billion years of life and hundreds of thousands of years of human beings and all of your ancestors and all of their choices and all of the improbable, unlikely, impossible chain of events that led to this exact moment. You are here. That is enough for tonight. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spending this time thinking about the quiet wonder of something so easy to forget. I hope the facts have settled gently in you, and I hope that sleep comes easily now, the way it always has, the way it has for every human being who has ever lived, lying down in the dark and letting the night do its work. Rest well, sleep deeply. The universe will still be there in the morning, and so will you. Good night from the Sleepy Inventory. Until next time.